Thank you for coming on to watch our first workshop, Challenging High Ability Learners in PE. Let's begin. So let's have a look at what we will be covering today. We will be looking at what do we mean by higher ability learners? Why do we need to challenge them? How can we identify them? What can we do? How can we do this? Some good examples, some things to consider, and then answering some questions. So first of all, let's have a couple of definitions. The first one is for gifted and talented. So gifted students are those whose potential is distinctly above average in one or more of the following domains of human ability: intellectual, creative, social, and physical. Talented students are those whose skills are distinctly above average in one or more areas of human performance. This is slightly different to the definition of higher ability learners. Higher ability students are those whose progress and attainment significantly exceed age-related expectations, whose knowledge may extend beyond national measures of progress and attainment. So bearing those both in mind, let's think about what does a higher ability child look like in PE? So the obvious answer, they're good at the skills that they're doing. They may often take charge because they've got that additional knowledge to help them lead. Quite often they'll really like PE because they're good at it, they enjoy coming along and they enjoy the sessions. You may see that they apply their skills in other contexts. So you might see them in their playtimes or their lunch times using the skills of the sports that they've learned in PE or that they're very good at or that they might do outside of school. And they're usually quite confident. They enjoy showing what they can do because they're very good at it. So why do we need to challenge the higher ability children? We need to ensure they stay engaged. Every child should make progress. Every child deserves the chance to excel. We need to instill a love of being active. So just because a child's very good at a sport or very good at a certain skill doesn't mean that they will enjoy what they're doing. It does most of the time, but it doesn't always directly relate. It could start something amazing. So you might end up with the next England cricketer or the next Olympian because you've helped support that child developing their journey. And also it can help avoid disruption in your session because everybody's engaged. So how can we identify these learners? A lot of it's through observation and questioning. So you might see that they successfully apply their learning and skills to other settings or games without prompting. So a child might have some great skills in netball, and when you start teaching handball, you can see that those skills have easily been transferred from one to the other. Quite often they'll easily reflect on their own learning in order to make improvements. So they might be able to talk about what they've done and talk about how they'll do it differently next time. They might not be able to talk about it, but you can see that they're working it through in their brain when you next come to do a challenge with them. They are confident and responsive to new challenges. So you tell them that they're doing a brand new sport or that you're doing a brand new activity, and they're quite keen to give it a go. And as mentioned before, they often become the leader or take charge. Consider how you currently identify them in your setting. So is it just through observation? Do you ask the children if they take part in extracurricular activities outside of school? They might be part of a local club. Do you send out a survey to parents to find out what the children enjoy out of school? Have a think about what you currently do to identify your higher ability learners. So now we've identified them, what can we do? So a great one is to use them as leaders and role models. You can provide them with extension activities. You can allow them to take on different roles within a game or a session. You can provide some enrichment activities, ask higher order questions, and signpost them to external clubs. I'm going to look at each of these in a little bit more detail now. So we know what to do. How do we do it? So a really great way to find out what a child should be doing to challenge them a little bit further is to look at the curriculum targets for their next key stage up. So if they're in key stage 1, have a look at key stage 2. If they're in Key Stage 2, have a look at the secondary targets, so Key Stage 3 or 4. If you're part of an academy trust, you might have a quite easy way of doing this because you probably have your own curriculum that you can have a look at. But if not, just even if it's just the year above, think about what you could do in your sessions just to challenge them a little bit further. So allocate extension challenges aimed specifically at improving their skill set. So for example, you might be playing a netball match where everyone is allowed to hold the ball for 5 seconds. For that individual child, you might say to them, right, you can only hold the ball for 3 seconds, because you know that they will quickly make decisions as to where they need to pass the ball or telling other children to get into a space because they're just slightly higher able. Liaise with other schools that may also have talented children to set up friendlies. So not only will your children get to play matches in a sport that they enjoy, but they will also get to play against people that are of a similar level. Often at schools, children will be playing with a huge mix of abilities. And actually, if you send them to go and play a match with children that are similar to them, not only will they learn more, but they will also be really challenged to use their entire skill set. And then consider the review questions you ask. So think about higher order questionings. So instead of getting stock answers, getting them to think a little bit deeper. So instead of saying, why is good defense important? You might say, what are your reasons for defending in this way? To get them to really analyse why they specifically are doing what they're doing. So, some good examples. Use them as a good role model to demonstrate skills. So first of all, it's really helpful for you because you know you're going to get a good demonstration out of them. There's not going to be lost learning time trying to get a child to demonstrate a skill that takes 10 minutes instead of 2. And also, the children really enjoy being used in this way. Think about targeted extracurricular provision. This can be particularly useful for upcoming competitions, really getting down into the real depths of a sport, working on the skills, working on the tactics, the techniques. Great way to engage your higher ability learners. Create strong links with local clubs. So a really good way to do this is maybe getting them in for half a term to deliver in your PE sessions or your after school sessions if that's easier. You're building that link, the children know the club know the children. You're more likely to set up a longer lasting link if you do it this way. You could use the higher ability children to have their say on the wider PE agenda in your school. So you could make them part of your sports council or your school council to let them really have a say as to what they want to see improve in PE, school sport and physical activity in their setting. So include your extension challenges in your sessions. Do this as a matter of course, just like you would differentiate for your lower ability learners, have extension challenges ready for your higher ability learners. Some things to bear in mind. Provide the child with a wide range of experiences. Don't just pigeonhole them into that one sport just because they're great at it. They might be good at some others as well. Create a good balance of challenge and enjoyment. While children enjoy having a challenge and they enjoy being pushed, they do also just like being left alone sometimes to give things a go. Exposure is key. They may have other skills they need to develop, or they may find a sport they're even better at. So keep showing them all the different sports, all the different activities, just to really dig down into what they're good at. They won't necessarily be good at everything. So just because a child is excellent at football, it doesn't mean that they're going to be great at gymnastics. So don't expect everything from them all the time. And finally, you don't always have to provide challenging experiences for them. Sometimes they can just play the game like everybody else. And actually, you will probably find with your higher ability learners that they self-challenge anyway, because they've got that slightly higher understanding of the sport that they're taking part in. So these are some of the questions that were sent through from the attendees on the day that we answered within the session. So the first one, how can I challenge higher ability children with English as a second language? PE is the best subject for this, in my opinion, because it's so visual and so practical. You can easily challenge a higher ability child with English as an additional language through clear demonstrations. So physically showing them what you want them to do guarantees that they will understand. Another great thing to do is to work with them either one-to-one or with just one other child for 10 minutes at a lunchtime. And I know that time is precious in schools. I know that's not always possible, but even just 10 minutes, one lunchtime a week, where you work on a certain sport or skills or just play games with them will make a huge difference to their improvement of their sports skills, but you will also see a massive difference with their acquired English. Next one, what strategies will help challenge higher ability children? So I think we've already answered this really in the bulk of the presentation, but my top tip would be plan for them like you do your lower ability children. That way you're never going to be caught out and you've always got something up your sleeve for those children that really achieve. Third question, how can I challenge higher ability children during team games? Give them individual challenges within the games. For example, in a football match, the higher ability learner can't pass back to the person they've just passed to. All the other players have all the same usual rules, but this one child or these three children have been given this extra little challenge. We actually have challenge cards in our shop that have some great examples of individual challenges. Without singling a child out, how can I challenge them? So there will only be as much singling out for them as there is for a lower ability child. It will just be a case of going over to that group or going over to that child and quietly giving them the next challenge or the extension activity or the slight change in the work that they're doing. It doesn't have to be telling the whole class that this one child or these two children are doing something different to everybody else. It's just making sure those children get given that challenge. What strategies can be used to ensure consistent challenge, progress, and differentiation? Again, I think we've kind of covered this already within the session, but my top tip would be to look at the expectations of the key stage above. It just really gives you a clear idea of where that child needs to get to if they're not quite there yet, or what they can do next if they are ready for that next step. What activities are appropriate for a Year 6 gifted and talented programme? Any activities at all. Because they're so able, they will adapt to any activity. The programme instead could offer a great opportunity to delve deeper into the understanding and the application as opposed to the activity itself. The activity that you choose is almost just the driver for all the background stuff that the children will learn through having this specified session. And finally, how do we engage all higher ability learners across a range of different activities? So again, I hope I've covered this already, but some top tips would be the individual challenges and the leadership roles. So have a think. Moving forward, now you've listened to this workshop, what's the one thing that you will try to implement based on this workshop? Have you had a great idea that's come to mind as you've been listening? Has one thing really stood out for you that you think might be quite simple to implement? You can do it quite soon. Or is there something that needs a little bit more planning, a little bit more work that you can implement later on in the year? Thank you for listening to the workshop. If you enjoyed it, come and join us for the next one with Adam Price at the start of December, which is all about adapting PE for children with SEND. Thanks very much.